Welcome to Let's Talk About That, the channel where we break down the issues that matter most to Nigeria's future. Today, I'll be starting a 21 video series in which I'll be explaining a step by step plan, starting with the most urgent actions, then moving to medium term and long term reforms, which the government of Nigeria can embark on if our leaders are really committed to pulling this country out of the hole into which we have fallen. This video series is not about prayers. Prayers can uplift the spirit and build community, but let me tell you, no country became prosperous by using prayer as an economic strategy. Go and ask the Americans or the British or other developed countries. They'll tell you they did not fast for 100 days to get where they are today. Prosperity requires choices, trade offs, or sacrifices, and disciplined execution. Nigeria's poverty problem is not a mystery, neither is it a religious problem. It is simply a management problem. If our leaders execute certain urgent actions in the next 6 months, build momentum over another 2, 3, or maybe 4 years, and if they remain consistent, I tell you, millions of Nigerians can move from survival to stability and from stability to prosperity. In this first video in the series, I'm kicking off my poverty eradication roadmap series with what I call the most urgent step or action: food sufficiency. That's why I titled this video Food First: How Nigeria Can Tame Hunger and Inflation. Now, imagine this: a farmer in Benue plants yams, but by the time they are supposed to reach Lagos after harvest, half of them have rotted. The other half arrive so expensive that many families can't even cook yam porridge anymore. Yeah, we joke about it, but hunger is not a joke. Hunger is a crisis. Why should Nigeria start with food sufficiency, you might ask? Well, if you really want to understand poverty, you must first understand the struggle to eat. Here's the truth. In Nigeria today, over 60% of the average household's income goes into food. Think about that. More than half of what people earn is swallowed up just to survive. Now, compare that to developed countries where families spend less than 15% of their income on food. The difference is massive. And this matters because the moment food prices rise, poverty deepens instantly. Parents face impossible choices. Should they buy food or pay school fees? Should they skip a meal so that their children can eat? Or do they pull their children out of school entirely because education starts to feel like a luxury compared to hunger? And the effects don't stop there. Rising food costs mean more children are malnourished, more families are hungry, and more futures are compromised. Malnutrition doesn't just mean empty stomach. It means stunted growth, weak immune systems, and poor brain development. A child who is constantly hungry cannot concentrate in class. A workforce that is malnourished cannot be productive. Ask the Japanese what they did. And a nation that cannot feed its people cannot prosper. That's why any serious plan to fight poverty in Nigeria must start with food. Affordable, accessible, and reliable food supply is not a luxury. It is the foundation for health, education, productivity, and national progress. Without tackling food first, every other poverty alleviation policy is like building a house on sand. It will collapse. So, if we are serious about lifting Nigerians out of poverty, the first question must always be, how do we make food secure and affordable for every family? But the next question is, why are we in this mess? What exactly is driving our food crisis? Why do we have this food crisis? First, let's talk about insecurity. Across large parts of Nigeria, especially the north, farmers are chased off their lands by bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists. Imagine this: a farmer who once produced enough food for hundreds of people now abandons his field because every trip to the farm could be his last. Fertile land sits empty while hunger spreads. Then there's the problem of rotten crops. Even when farmers manage to harvest, bad feeder roads make it almost impossible to get the food to the market. Trucks break down, cost of fuel, harvest spoiled by the roadside, and cities face scarcity. Every year, Nigeria loses millions of tons of food, not because we don't grow enough, but because we cannot move it. We can't send the food to the market. Now, add the burden of inflation in farm inputs, seeds, fertilizer, transport. Everything a farmer needs has become painfully expensive. A bag of fertilizer that once sold for 7,000 now costs more than 30,000 naira. With fuel hikes, transport doubles overnight. Farmers end up planting less, harvesting less, and selling at higher prices just to survive. And who pays in the end? You and I, the average Nigerian family, when they go to the market. And finally, policy U-turns. One day the government bans rice imports to encourage local farmers. Farmers take loans, clear fields, and invest. The next day, the policy is reversed. Cheap imports flood in. Local farmers collapse under debt, and confidence is shattered. How can farmers plan for tomorrow when government policies change like the weather? So, when you put insecurity, bad infrastructure, skyrocketing costs, and unstable policies together, you get the perfect storm behind Nigeria's food crisis. Farmers are trapped, consumers are squeezed, and the entire nation is left hungrier and poorer. Now, that's the reality we face. And if Nigeria is serious about solving poverty, these are the cracks we must first repair. Now, what are those things we must do? First, we must secure the food belts. If farmers can't farm in safety, Nigeria cannot eat. Protecting fertile states like Kaduna, Benue, in fact, the whole country must be treated as a national security priority. That means deploying joint forces, military, police, and community security, especially during planting and harvest seasons. Without security, all other plans are useless. Then we need targeted imports. Let's be clear. Nigeria must grow what it eats. That when shortages happen, like with rice, the answer is not reckless bans or careless flooding of the market. Instead, we need smart, controlled imports that fill gaps without destroying local farmers who have already invested their sweat and money. Third, we need to release grain reserves. Nigeria has silos meant to store grains, but too often they sit empty or are mismanaged. Imagine if every week the government released small amounts of grain into the market. Prices would stabilize, panic buying would reduce, and poor families wouldn't suffer overnight shocks. That is how reserves should work, as a shield against hunger. Then let's talk about digital farm inputs, fertilizer, seeds, and pesticides should reach farmers directly, not through middlemen or politicians who inflate prices and steal resources. With today's technology, this is possible. Mobile money works in rural Nigeria. So farm inputs can too. We can also do that. Give farmers e-vouchers, send support straight to their phones, and cut out the corruption. Then we can fix feeder roads. Food must move from farm to market. Right now, tons of tomatoes, yams, and maize rot on the roadside because trucks cannot pass through broken feeder roads. Priority repairs on these rural roads would in fact would mean more food on tables, less waste, and lower prices for everyone. The truth is this: Nigeria doesn't lack ideas, it lacks will. We already know what's wrong and we know what must change. Secure the farms, manage reserves, support farmers directly, and fix the roads. Do this and we tackle poverty at its root. Ignore this and millions will remain trapped in hunger. So the choice is ours as a nation. Do we finally act to feed ourselves or do we keep watching poverty grow on empty stomachs? Of course, people will say, how will we know if it is working? Yes, it is not enough to announce policies. Nigerians must feel the results in their pockets and on their plates. Now, the first sign is that food inflation will drop. Prices should begin to stabilize month after month. A bag of rice shouldn't double overnight. A mother shouldn't spend 12,000 naira today for what cost 5,000 naira yesterday. The second sign that things are working is steady market supplies. Food items like tomatoes, beans, and yams should be available consistently, not in wild cycles of glut and scarcity. With reserves, storage, and better roads, market shelves should stay stocked all year. And the third sign for us to know that things are working is that secure planting and harvesting must be going on. Farmers must be able to return to their lands without fear. Communities must be able to farm without the shadow of bandits. When the fields are green again and harvests reach the markets safely, Nigeria will know it is finally winning. So let me conclude this first video in the series by saying this. Food is the foundation. If people cannot eat affordably, poverty is permanent. Fixing hunger is not charity, it's national survival. Food is not just about hunger, it is about survival, education, health, and national progress. If Nigeria can fix food, it can fight poverty at its root. If it ignores food, poverty will only deepen. So the path is clear. Secure the farms, support the farmers, stabilize prices, and move the harvests. Do this and we will see poverty shrink. If you fail, we will keep asking why a land so rich leaves its people hungry. This is the hard truth. And as always, let's talk about that. In the next episode, I will shine the light on electricity, because without power, even farming and storage will collapse. So stick around, like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on our videos.